Here is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, episode number 30. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Turrbal people. I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. They were the first music makers on this land. This episode is a chat with Katherine Ruhle. Katherine Ruhle, if you do not know of her music, you must check it out. KatherineRuhle.com. KatherineRuhle.com. I'll put the link in the show notes as well. Seriously, I'll just channel Molly Meldrum. Do yourself a favour. Get in there and have a look at her music. In this first half of our conversation, we're going to talk about her path to composition. It's a very interesting story. And we look at some of the pieces, and I guess we started with my favourite pieces of hers. We look at the heart and the meaning behind these beautiful compositions. I'm really fortunate that Kath is the choral conductor at my school. We have 5 choirs at my school. I take the grade 1 and 2 choir, which I just adore. And Kath takes our junior choir, grade 3 and 4, and our senior choir, grade 5 and 6. And for the first half of the year, the girls' choir, and the second half of the year, the boys' choir. So I'm in this privileged position to watch her work, see her with the children. It's just... You'll get the impression from listening to her, if you've never met her, that she's a lady with a really kind heart and a lovely disposition. And that impression is 100% accurate. She's amazing. In this half of the episode, we'll talk a bit about the highlights of her career and gratitude. I'll stop all this chatting now because you really need to listen to what Kath Ruhle has to say. Well, welcome, Katherine Ruhle, to the Crescendo Music Education Podcast. Hello.
Hello. Nice to finally be here.
Yes, finally on the podcast. However, we do see each other fairly regularly, and I feel very fortunate that that is the case. But we can talk about that a little more as we go on. Before we start, I'd like to read your bio for all of those who aren't fortunate enough to have come across you or your work yet. Here we go. Katherine Ruhle is an early childhood music specialist, children's choral composer and choral conductor. Katherine is passionate about sharing her love of music with children of all ages and is well known for the original ideas and creativity that she brings to choir rehearsals and also with the choral pieces that she composes. Her choral pieces are sung all around Australia and throughout the world. Katherine has conducted many massed choirs in Queensland and presented at choral and early childhood music workshops, both nationally and internationally. Currently, she conducts 3 choirs at the Gap State School. Yay, that's where I work. And runs early childhood music classes, teaches piano, and tries to find time to compose. Yeah, I like that. Yes, I bet it is like that. So now that you've all met Kath, wait till you actually get to hear her. You will fall in love with her, as everybody does. Yay.
Oh, that's nice.
So listening to that bio that I've just presented, is there anything that you'd like to add, Kath?
I think my career has been very eclectic. It's bits and pieces all over the place. I've never had one set job. And sometimes I think it would be easier to have one job, but then I would miss all the little experiences that I have in all the different areas that I do. But I really have been a mum for many of my years. So 10 years I was a stay-at-home mum. And during that time, I felt really fortunate to be at home, but I did miss being involved in music education, being involved in choirs. But I look back at that time now and realise how much I learnt that I now put into practice. over the years. And some of the jobs and little things that I did during that time has really informed who I am as a musician and music teacher and a composer and a conductor. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Because you have had an interesting, I actually like the story of your path to composition.
Mm.
Do you mind if we take a little sidetrack? I just love the story of how you started composing music. And then I do want to talk about the music that you write as well. So don't let me forget. We'll come back to that because that it just speaks to your heart, like the music that you write. There's something very magical about it. But first, how did you come to start writing music?
Mm. So as a child, I was constantly improvising. It was something that I loved doing. So I would do my 1 or 2 hours of piano practice, but then I would sit down and play. And I didn't realize that that was a strange thing or that not many people could do that, but it was something that was within me. So I loved composing and improvising. Through university years, I did some composing subjects, and I honestly thought that I could never be a composer. The love of composing was taken away from me because it was all rules and regulations, and that's not how I composed. I composed by feeling and what felt right rather than following a whole bunch of rules. So I put composition aside for many years, and it was exactly 10 years ago in June that I had a knee injury just out of the blue doing a gym class, and I ended up having 7 knee operations. I was in hospital for many months. I ended up with a pain condition which really made me lie in bed for months on end. I couldn't work, I couldn't look after my young girls, the children at that stage, and all I could do was sing to them. So the girls would come in at the end of a night. I might read them a story and say, I'm going to make you up a song overnight, and you can come back in the morning and I'll sing you this song. And that's all the energy that I had to give girls at that stage, but I could compose while I lay in bed. And I saw the joy that the girls got from that. And then the music teacher at the Gap State School at that stage heard that I'd written some songs, and she said, can we sing them with the choir? And I reluctantly shared them because I thought this is something that's special for me and my family. But the choir sang 1 or 2 of the songs, and that brought me so much joy to see how those children connected with my music and the stories that I'd written through the music. And then, yeah, I met you, and you were an amazing advocate for saying, everyone, listen to this music or come and share on this journey.
Yes. So
But
that was,
after,
oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, out of a really dark, difficult time of my life, music was what pulled me through it. And yeah, composition has been something that's been very much a part of my life then for the last 10 years.
Like it's such a terrible but wonderful story. I can't imagine being like 7 operations and not being like it must have been horrible. And little kids that you want, they would have been very young then. They would have been in primary school.
Yeah, I had one who was in prep, and then yeah, they're all just in school,
Just
which
in
was good
school.
in one way because um, if they'd been at home even younger, it would have been really hard. But
Yeah, like so difficult. But it just shows you the power of music for you and your girls. And then the result, because Anne O'Regan was the lovely music teacher at the Gap State School before I was there. And she contacted me and said, you have got to hear this music, this mum at my school, and it's amazing. And so from then on, I knew of your work. And now I get to work with you at the Gap and see what you do. Because to me, the magic of your compositions, apart from being incredibly singable and singable, I know it doesn't sounds like a bit of a naff word, doesn't it? But they're singable. I can't think of another word to. The phrases are well shaped, all of those things, but they have real meaning behind them. There's a real message. There's real heart. I'm thinking of cactus. That is about the prickly outside, but inside you're nourishing the creatures, and don't judge a book by its cover. The cactus has a lot to offer. Like, so many of your pieces have these amazing messages. Plastic
I love the
bag.
story.
Oh, yeah,
I
go
love
on.
this. Yeah, I love the story of the moth, which was a composition that I wrote comparing moths to butterflies. And it really is a fun, silly song saying the moths are saying, "What about me? We deserve attention as well. Butterflies get all the attention, but we're important." And I remember after a concert, a mother coming up to me afterwards and going, "Oh, Kath, isn't that all of our stories? We all feel like moths sometimes and we all want to be butterflies, but we're all important." And I thought, that was never my intention, for people to connect with it on such a deep level as well. But that is the beauty of choral music, where the music and the words all come together and people feel but also interpret it in their own way.
Yes, and it's extra powerful. I could read a poem, and no offense to poets out there, it just does not have the same impact. It just doesn't access your brain the same way. Like, we know that now from neuroscience, don't we? So what we're doing is so powerful. What you do and what you give to children is beyond measure. So before we leave your compositions, let's talk about a few others that I really like. I'm going off track here, aren't I? But I just like your pieces. Plastic Bag Ball. I mean, I remember hearing that, and like, I think I may have had a little weep. All right, I may have had a little cry. So tell us about plastic. Is that what it's called? Plastic Bag Ball? Yes.
Yes, Plastic Bag Ball. My family has a bit to do with East Timor, and we run a charity over there with young children and giving young adults scholarships, so that they can go to university. So we've gone over a few times, and I remember sitting on the beach one day and seeing these children who had nothing. But what they did have was a ball made out of plastic bags and rubbish, and rubber bands. Yeah, rubbish bags and rubber bands. And they'd put this ball together and they were so happy playing on the beach. And there was rubbish everywhere and sticks and stones. It wasn't a nice beach, but that didn't matter to them because they had their ball. And I wanted to write a song about what I was seeing. And we have got so much here in Australia, but often we take it for granted. But we can find joy in the small things. Yeah. So a lot of my composition ideas come from what I see, what I experience, what I feel.
It's so magic. So think if there's any more that you'd like to mention down the track. So they were just ones that popped into my head, but there's so many that I want to talk about, because every time I hear a new one of yours, I go, "Oh, that one's so good." Anyway, and because I'm in this privileged position of being the music teacher at the school where you come in and you're the conductor / composer, and you try out new pieces. Well, it's not exactly try out, but you give them their first run, maybe. So we often do world premieres, and it's just such a privilege to hear them first. It's just, and the kids get a buzz out of that too. So what would you consider, so I'm getting back on track now, okay, back to my questions. What would you consider a highlight or highlights of your journey as a musician, a composer, conductor, music educator? You're all of those things. What would you consider a highlight or highlights?
Probably one of the bigger ones was when I was working with Birrelea, and I was their conductor of their little children's choir, the Piccolos. And they were doing a big Anzac concert at QPAC. And all of the choirs were singing there, including these little children who were prep and grade 1. And when I first heard of the idea, I instantly thought of new pieces to compose for these young children. And I've always struggled finding music for the younger children that were just right for them and their voices.
Well, and especially on a topic like Anzac. I mean,
Exactly.
a topic war and remembering those who have passed away from war. Like that's heavy stuff for 5-year-olds.
That's right.
Mm.
So I wrote a little song about Grandpa sharing his stories with his grandchildren, a song called Parcel of Care, where we all put together a parcel of care to send over to loved ones overseas during the war. So songs that had meaning but were simple topics for the children to engage with. So it was a really special thing to prepare with these children, these brand new songs, but then to get up onto the stage and rehearse and to see the children's eyes in this massive concert hall. And they don't realise how amazing this experience was, but I sure did.
Mm.
And then to hear the amazing choirs sing throughout the day, the adults choirs and the young children, just amazing quality. And then to have my little children up on stage singing. And it was really special to go. It doesn't matter what age you are, we can all get involved in our storytelling and sharing the beautiful joy of music with the audience. So that was really special. But at the end of the concert, we all sang a massed piece together. And standing on stage with all of the performers of all different ages, all different backgrounds, and singing some pieces together. I was on stage and I was weeping, like just sobbing. It was such a powerful moment, partly because my songs had been sung, partly because I'd worked really hard with the young children to get them to a stage where they could perform for the audience. But more than that, it was singing together and sharing that experience with the audience. It was really special. So that was a really big moment, but I love the smaller everyday moments of being in boys' choir on a Monday morning, which is always a challenge, and seeing things click and seeing some of these boys who can't sit still and just want to talk suddenly be able to sing a song from beginning to end with passion and joy and want to tell their mates about it. And for me, that's as much of a highlight as standing up on stage performing.
Oh, I love it. And I think that most music educators and conductors will really understand what you're saying there. And as a witness to my own boys' choir, your boys' choir, which is, I sort of claim them because I teach them in the classroom. I can just say that you do tend to attract the wriggly ones in boys' choir, Kath. I'll just call them the wriggly ones. All of those people who are listening out there who are music teachers, they know what I mean when I say you attract the wriggly ones. And you manage to harness their energy, in a really calm way too. You are a joy to watch. If anybody gets a chance to watch Kath in action, she's amazing at behaviour management and all of those things in a very quiet, beautiful, calm way. Wonderful. But yes, I think that's great to have the big highlights, and then you've also got your smaller everyday highlights, which is the magic of what we do, I think. So could you tell us about a person or people who've been influential in your life? And I'm certain there's been a lot, but professional or personal or both. Is there anybody that stands out?
For me, I really think back to my younger years, and I think that's where the biggest difference in my life happened. My mum, who sang to me and made music a part of everyday life. She wasn't a musician. She, could play a bit of piano and play a bit of guitar, but she would sing and do nursery rhymes with me and my brother and sister. And seeing how she interacted with every child that she came in contact with, she had a special ability to be able to help children who were upset. She just was able to get them out of their mood and help them feel joy again. Children who were grumpy or children who were bored, she knew what to do. And so I grew up watching her going, I want to be like her. And I definitely have a lot of my behaviour management skills, and a lot of the way I handle rehearsals is a reflection of what I saw from mum growing up. I was very fortunate to go to a primary school where music was valued and important, and we would have 2 music lessons a week. We had a marching band. We'd go around the streets of Toowoomba playing our melodicas. There's something that we don't see much of these
Oh, no.
days.
Oh, so they're the ones you blow in and have keys? Yeah?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. A piano that you blow into. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my music teacher, similar to you, really has an open music classroom. And so I was a very shy kid, didn't feel like I always fit in everywhere. I had a great group of friends, but we stayed at the music block quite often. And all the instruments were available to play. And I remember trying out all these different recorders one lunchtime and learning that the notes were all different and the fingering depending on the different sizes. And the music teacher said, how about we put together a recorder band for the upcoming Eisteddfod? And so together as a group, we learnt all these instruments and put it together. We would try out the percussion instruments, and she goes, why don't you write your own percussion composition? And so we would spend many lunch hours writing our own compositions, and that was normal. And it was so much fun.
Not, but how great. Do you
Yeah.
remember her name?
Mrs. Con. I don't know her first name.
No.
Lovely Mrs. Con. And she was a Kodai teacher, so we played lots of games, and
Good.
I still remember the dog and the bone with her. But for me, it was even more than what we did in the classroom. It was her attitude of saying, everyone is welcome, and I want to support you at whatever stage you're at in your musical journey. You're welcome. And yeah, she did more for me than I think anyone has. And the confidence that I got through music with her then allowed me to be confident in all areas of my life.
Wow. So powerful. Wow. That's amazing. Is there anyone else you wanted to mention? That they both sound very powerful. Like, I'm sure there's more, but more you'd really like to.
Look, yeah, there's so many. And Debbie, you've definitely been a major influence from promoting my music in the early years. You didn't even know who I was, and you invited me to speak at a workshop. And I remember turning up and I said, hi, Debbie. And you had no idea who I was. You said, oh, I thought you had brown hair or someone different. But you gave me a chance.
Yeah.
And from then you've encouraged and supported, as you do for so many people. And from what you do, we've had chances to learn from many different composers and music educators. And yeah, it's such a powerful thing that you do.
Oh, thank
you.
Thank you, Kath. Okay, we'll finish now on that note. No, joking. That is very nice, though. Thank you very much. All right. Now, let's get on to gratitude, which is something I like to talk to people about. I think it's certainly something I've found more in my life recently, to focus more on gratitude. And I'm certain, knowing the sort of person you are, that gratitude would be in some form fairly big in your life. So what is it that you are most grateful for, do you think?
For me, growing up in a family where music was very natural and normal, it was a second language for us. To have been in a school where music was celebrated, and it was also a very normal thing to be involved in. I know since then, having lived in country areas and rural areas where that wasn't the case, how fortunate we are. And I know at our school, you're constantly coming into the choirs and to the bands going, do you know how fortunate you are to have this?
I am always telling the kids that. They don't know yet, but they will one day, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really grateful for the Queensland music scene, for the way that we do collaborate, for the way that we share resources and encourage each other, and come together for big events and smaller events. Schools are always working together and coming up with new ways of sharing the joy of music, and talking to other people in other states. That's not always the case. So I'm really grateful that, once again, that feels normal, that I've always had people advocating for what I do and encouraging me and getting behind me as I do for others. And I'm really grateful for schools singing my music, and sharing the stories behind that. And it's really special to receive comments and videos and the way songs have touched them, out of something that's really a hobby for me, to go, it's pretty special to be able to share my resources and know that it's making a difference.
And that's powerful, isn't it? Knowing that you are positively affecting other people's lives. Like, that's pretty special, isn't it? Yeah. I love it. Okay, now we get to the part where you get to share your nuggets of fabulous for everybody. Like, I know you work magic with large groups of children. Oh, I'm sure you work magic with small groups, but I tend to just see you with large groups. So I'm just wondering if you'd like to pick a couple of those tips, tricks, strategies, resources, repertoire. Well, we already know your repertoire is excellent, so you don't have to say that one. I'll just give that nugget of fabulous. Get on to, I'll put the link in the show notes, but is your website, I don't know, it just pops up for me, katherine.com.
Katherine Ruhle.
Katherine Ruhle.
.com. Yeah, see, I don't even know. That's how much I don't publicise.
I think. Anyway, okay, I'll put
www.katherineruhle.com.
Oh, and while we're on that, I'll give you the first nugget of fabulous to everyone listening. Get onto that website, which I'll put in the show notes. Actually, look, while we're doing it, I'm going to Google it here on the side while we do it, so that I can actually say that in case somebody doesn't. Katherine, really? Okay. Oh, it is just a .com. Katherine. Okay. And also, people need to know how to spell your surname. So it's Katherine, Katherine, Ruhle. That is Ruhle. So it's katherineruhle.com. And the reason I want to stress that is, if you get onto there, there are these freebies that are just gems. Now, is the Prince one of your freebies?
Yes.
I was one of the first ones I did with my little sopranino. So, at those of you who don't know, at the state school where I teach, where music is very valuable, very valuable, sorry, well, it is, but I meant valued, where music is valued. And we have 5 choirs. Kath takes 4 of them and I take 1. I do argue that the one I take is the most important, but that's the grade 1 and 2 choir, where I get very large numbers. And I'm hoping to motivate them to continue into Kath's junior choir, which is grade 3 and 4. And then we have a senior choir, year 5 and 6. And then for the first half of the year, we have a girls' choir, which generally is only year 6 and 7 because of the numbers. And then we have a boys' choir, the wriggly ones we were talking about. They are grade 5. Oh, actually, they're at the moment grade 3 to 6, because we just don't get as many boys. We do have quite a few boys in the junior and senior choir, but we're still, it's certainly not 50-50. So we're trying to encourage more boys. So at the moment, it's grade 3 to 6 for the boys for the second half of the year. So I had this new little choir, the Sopraninos is our little grade 1 and 2 choir. At that stage, I think I had about 90 in that choir. And we did The Prince, which is a freebie off Kat's website. The Prince, he was what riding
Went riding by.
yeah. Anyway, I won't embarrass myself by trying to sing anymore, but it was so fun. And we just had a little boy on a hobby horse thing that I made that galloped around while we sang. And it's just a great little piece. Canonic, I think it's a canon, isn't it?
It's canon, yeah.
Yeah.
And can be done as a partner song as well.
And it's magic and it's free. So there we go. Nuggets of fabulous. There is all this free stuff on Kath's website. So there you go. That's the first nugget. Get on to kathreely.com, katherinereally.com, and then I'll hand over to Kath for the other nuggets.
Yeah. I've been really fortunate that I was a piano accompanist for many years for choirs. And so I was able to watch a lot of different choral conductors over the years and get lots of wisdom and tips and tricks from them. I only did my early childhood education degree 10, 12 years ago now. And that was as I was accompanying choirs and starting out conducting choirs. And it was a really good time to revisit education and every subject that we did in early childhood, whether it was maths or English or the arts or science. Every time we were encouraged to think creatively and to say, how are you using the different senses? How are you using different learning styles to engage the children in this subject? And a lot of people struggled with that, but I loved it. That's how my mind thinks. I'm really creative. And that came from my mum because I saw her engage children in so many different ways growing up. And so for me, taking choirs, that's been really important to say, how am I engaging all the different styles of learning in this choir rehearsal? And I'd seen so many other conductors where it was very much sit down, stand up, read the music, let's go over. And that's the choirs that I grew up in, and I loved that. But I thought this can be done differently. And so for me, it's really important as I'm teaching songs especially to say, how can I do this in different ways? So we do a lot of listening, closing our eyes and listening to the music being played, saying, what are you feeling? How are you connecting with the music? Can you paint a picture in the air as you're listening? Talk to the people around you. What did you hear? What do you think this song could be about? Why do you think the composer has written it like this? Trying to get the students to think for themselves rather than just be told, this is why we're singing this, or this is what this piece is about. I do a lot of movement in my rehearsals. And once again, I think that's how I best connect with music and I learn. So I'm sure that there's others who do that as well. So, I've used parachutes before. So I've written a song called Underneath the Sea, which is about the puffer fish and making this sand castle. So use a parachute to feel the waves, and we lift it up and down and we circle around. These are things that music teachers often use in their classrooms, scarves and parachutes, but they don't come into the choir rehearsal. And I just find that being able to engage students in different ways with different resources, they learn it quickly, they engage with it, it wakes them up, it makes them think differently, but they want to come back because it's fun. And so I'm always thinking about how can I do things differently.
I love it. That's certainly, and yeah, you're right. I think a lot of classroom teachers do that. But then once they switch into choral conductor mode, it's okay, let's do a bit of note bashing and a bit of can you hold your part? And we do, I think, sometimes lose that same edge of creativity and engagement. So that's
yeah. And what I've seen, I haven't done much music teaching. I've done some supply, but I've watched a lot of, especially Kodai music teachers in action, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. and the children are so engaged and they don't realize how much they are learning through all the games and the activities.
Yes.
And yeah, I guess my challenge is how do we bring that into the choral rehearsal?
Well, you do that really well. You've got great warm-up ideas too. I love the way your warm-ups are related to the piece. You know, you obviously spend a lot of time crafting your rehearsals, which again is a little bit of a problem when you're the class teacher doing 1,000 things and you've got choir on top of that.
Exactly.
I always felt guilty, and I feel guilty every morning I go down to the sopraninos because I'm thinking, well, I've certainly not spent much time getting this rehearsal ready because there's just so many other things pressing on your time. And I know that I'm certainly not Robinson Crusoe there with other music teachers will hear me and go, yes, I wish I had more time to put into the choir rehearsals. But you can see that when I watch you work, the lessons are crafted, you know, you've got some fun warm-ups. And yeah,
I'm very fortunate that that is what I can focus on. And over the years, I've spent lots of time really thinking about my rehearsals, and not so much now because it's part of it's become more second nature. But my favourite time of the year is when we're starting new repertoire. And that's when I put a lot of time and effort in going, how am I going to introduce this piece so that the children connect with it? And it doesn't matter if it's, say, a sad piece or a slow, melodical, beautiful piece that I'm doing with the boys, or a really fast, energetic piece. My challenge is to introduce this song so that every child connects with it, whether they think they like beautiful music or not. And so, yeah, I feel very privileged to be paid to be able to spend the time to think about how to run these rehearsals. But I know the beauty of going along to workshops, and you've run many of these where you have conductors come along and give all their tips and tricks and their warm-ups. And I know that really gives teachers a lot of resources to go back and put into practice straight away. They don't then have to spend hours thinking about what they're going to do because they're instantly given all these beautiful new things. And I think that's an important thing. Even if you don't have the time on a weekly basis, if you can go to 1 or 2 workshops a year and be inspired again, then wonderful. Because in reality, you don't have time as music teachers to do all your job as it is, let alone spend hours on choir prep.
Yes, but that's a very good tip. Just going to a couple of PDs with great people, it just helps a lot, doesn't it? Yeah. So is there any other nuggets before we move on? No?
Oh, there's so many wonderful Australian composers. And look, I think feel free to put it on the website when you put this out, because I'm sure if I start naming them, I will leave some off. And but we're fortunate once again to have many composers who work with some of the young children, some great music for the little kids as well as teenagers and the young adults. So
yes, well, I do have part written a blog post with Australian, all focused on Australian composers. So I must get to that. But like you, when I do a little bit of work on it, I think, but what if I forget? Because I know lots of people. I'm very lucky, well, that's the advantage of being really old and really active in my networks. I know lots of amazing people, but I would be very scared that I would forget someone amazing. So I will keep working on that. We might even just put a temporary list in the show notes for this one. I might add that. I'll add a list of composers in the show notes. And then I might even just run that past you, Kath, and you can go, oh, you forgot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But it is worth doing. And what I've liked, the little bits and pieces I've had dealings with of American music educators, and I was lucky enough to do a session where I presented some Australian pieces, and they were really well accepted because I do believe they're slightly unusual. I just think we have a certain flavour here. I don't know whether it's fair to say a quirkiness.
Yeah.
'Cause
I've been told that about my music. It's quirky, it's different. But I also think we're storytellers. We love a good yarn. And
yes.
I think a lot of our composers are great at doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
not just through the words, but bringing the accompaniment behind it to tell the story as well.
Yes,
And I don't
using
think you
all.
hear that
Yeah.
in music from other countries as much.
Yes, I think so. And it does match with my own concept of what Australians are. And we are storytellers, we're yarners. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Yes. All right. We are going to get to something that you know is close to my heart. I spend quite a bit of time, quite a bit of my spare time working on advocacy activities, because at this time we really are fighting for music education. We're fighting for recognition of the importance of what we do. In some cases, we are even fighting for the existence of our programs. As I'm quick to point out, not in my school. Very fortunate there. But generally, there's a lot going on that goes against current research and current facts about the power of music education for our children. Not to create professional musicians, though that's okay if that might happen. That's cool.
Mm.
But it's for everyone to just make a well-rounded human being, you know?
Yes.
So at this time, is there any advice that you could give to us around advocacy for music education?
Mm. I think what you've been doing and leading has been amazing. And I know so many people are joining with you in that, which is fabulous. Um, I guess my own story is of how important music has been to me, and how, as a shy child, that gave me confidence to be the person I am today. And I didn't know that I'd become a musician, but for me as a child, that was my place of security, that was my place of joy. Um, and without music, I don't know where I would have fitted in to this society. And I think to be able to share stories about how much music has impacted people.
Mm,
And often we hear stories from musicians that how important music was, but do we have stories of people where music has made a difference in general in their childhood? I'd love to hear more of those stories.
mm,
When I hurt my knee, music was there for me. It was powerful. And once again, that pulled me out of a really dark time. I see, as I talked about the children in my boys' choir, and I know some of them don't necessarily feel like they fit in school, and they fit in choir.
mm,
There's a place there for them, and they feel loved, and they, they talk because they're happy, and they move because they can, and because they want to be moving.
mm,
Um, to be able to hear those stories of how music has made a difference and is continuing to make a difference,
mm,
especially when there's so many mental health issues and
mm.
difficulty. Music has such an important part to play at the moment. Um, I do a lot of work with early childhood, and that's where I feel that I can be an advocate, that I can be talking to the parents that come
Yes,
along
yes.
and saying, this is so important. And I'm try very hard to just have a fun class, but also give little words of wisdom throughout it to say, how lovely is it to stop and to listen to this piece, to feel close to your child, to be able to take time to breathe and to be still in the craziness of life. And that's what music can do. And so I think for all of us thinking, where can we be advocates? Where can we be sharing about the importance of music?
Yes.
Some of you are great at researching. That's not me. Some of you are great at standing up in front of lots of people and going, this is important. That's not me. But it's each of us has a role to play in whichever situation we're in.
Yes, great advice. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could capture some of those stories, like you said, from people that aren't necessarily musicians, but such a great opportunity that you have having the parents in the classes. That's, yes. So reaching the parents is something very important. So thank you.
And I know that you would love to write emails every week to your parents talking about the importance, and parents are overloaded these days, so there's reasons why we can't do that. But yeah, I have got an opportunity that I can share that.
Yes, I love that. And now to bring this lovely chat to a close, you get a chance to get on your soapbox and to tell the world anything that you would like to tell it. So are you ready to get on your soapbox? You can say anything. I mean, music related is cool, but you know, it actually doesn't have to be. If there's a message you want to get out there, you can go for it right now.
I am so much not a soapbox person. That's not at all who I am. I am someone who works behind the scenes, and I work in my little corner, and I dream and I vision and I do things, and I hope that I can impact and make a difference in my little corner, and that then inspires other people. And a bit like we were saying with the advocacy, is finding what your thing is. And each of us can make a difference. And most of us are making a difference in this world, and especially in the area of music. But don't be afraid to share that. And you know, I wrote these compositions, and I was never going to share it with other people because it was something for me. And it was because of people like you that said, you've got to share this. And it's been wonderful to share that, plus all these free resources and different things, because this is what I love doing, and it's just who I am, and it's very natural for me to write pieces, and so it's great to be able to inspire and help others in that area. But we've all got those things, and I love on Facebook, Debbie, how you often have questions of the week, or people can feel free to ask questions, and I'll often be the same people who respond, but then there'll be different topics where brand new people get involved and share their nuggets of wisdom and share what they're passionate about. And we need to hear from everyone. So be proud of the area that you're working in and make a difference, whether it's a small group of children, whether it's a school community, whether you get to organise massed choir events, whatever it is, be proud of that. But also don't be scared to share it, and to share of the successes, share of the things that don't go right, because we learn from that as well. And continue to be a community who supports each other, to celebrate the wins and the amazing things that other composers, conductors, educators are doing, because we all need to be involved to continue what we all know is so important for our young people and as adults as well. Yep. So if someone who's not someone who likes to soapbox, that's
I love no, that it just so suits the Kath, really, that I know is that when I say get on your soapbox, you go, I'm not a soapbox person. And in so many ways, you're not. I know what you mean, but you're saying support, you're saying share. And I can tell you that you, although you have the feeling that you're in your corner just doing your little bit, the impact that you are having on the entire world, the ripples of kindness and musicality that you are sending out to the world, those ripples are massive, and they're supporting and sharing. That supporting and sharing of others is getting out there, and the impact you're having is massive. And we are very, very appreciative of your work. And you've got to keep writing. You've got to make time. But you can't take time off taking my choirs, though.
Yeah. That's right. And thank you for those words. And for me, so many of us, I'm doing what I love. And yeah, if it can support and help others, then that's wonderful. And that brings me so much joy. To be a composer, you have to have time to dedicate to it. And it's so hard in this world when things are so busy to take the time. And wouldn't it be nice for all of us to have that time to
It would be nice.
Focusing on the things that we're naturally good at and can improve and then add value to others.
However, it would be quite sad if you had only that time, because you wouldn't be informed by all the other wonderful things you do. So it's just that finding that balance, isn't it? But I, for one, am very, very glad that you are in my circle of amazing people, Kath. And I'm hoping that after hearing this, the people that don't know Katherine really now feel they know you a little bit. They'll all hop on your website and start singing your fabulous music.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been lovely to chat with you, as always. And what a joy to be able to share music with so many.
Bye, Kath.
Bye.
As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. I have a question for you. Is a can opener that doesn't work called a can't opener? A can't opener. Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education podcast. For more information about all things Crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe.